How are you? Welcome to Critical Moves of Telesur. How much has the pandemic impacted on the financial system in the world? How are the main economies going on in this context? What are the alternatives? Have the sovereign states taken to confront the hegemony of the US dollar, which has been traditionally the weapon of war? Let's analyze this. Let's begin by listening to Chinese experts that explain why a digital currency would be superior than a cryptocurrency that is at the margin of the government.
La moneda digital emitida por el Banco Central
Cryptocurrency that is emitted by the central bank is a legal currency. It has the same. It costs the same as the other ones. It's so popular, however, the other ones, that even Facebook is about to launch a Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a digital product. Since it doesn't have any support of the money in the bank of a government, it has no support. Of course, it is very useful because people can pay for their things by putting their phones together. However, the national currency is supported by the central bank of a government, and that means that it has more costs of printing, distributing, and the digital currency has nothing of these expenses. Bitcoin is not a currency. The value is very volatile, and it's lost like $20,000 just recently. It can hardly be considered a currency, a coin. Of course, for small payments, it's okay. It can guarantee the security of the transactions. Let's see a mapping of some of the cryptocurrency that have been used by some government as an alternative. Cryptocurrency, anti-hegemonic tools. 50 years ago, the dollar has not been supported by gold. So ever since, it has been fluctuating freely throughout the international markets, and of which the United States uses to make pressure, to use coercive measures that are unilateral and sometimes illegal. This is why many nations have manifested their discontent, and they are finding alternatives such as the cryptocurrency. Some are like the bitcoins, but they are emitted by the central banks. Some of them are. Venezuela. Ever since 2018, the government has launched the Petro, which is a new monetary system that is supported on the oil reserves of the country. Iran in 2019, Hassan Rouhani, the president, has used the Paymon, which is supported by their own money, by their own gold. United Emirates Arabs in 2018, Dubai has used the Mcash that is supported by blockchain and will eventually become legal in their country. It will be used for public service and non-public service, like for paying your tuition. In China, in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, the president has lost the pilot tests of the digital yuan that is supported in oil too. This will be able to take advantage of their own potential. Scotland. In 2013, this British region created their first Scot coin as an alternative for their financial system. Iceland. In 2014, the government created the Ara coin. It's the first digital coin as an option to the local one. Russia, although this country doesn't have their own digital coin, ever since 2017, the president said that there were going to be a new implementation of the crypto rublo. This will be emitted by the central bank and supported by a bank deposit. We also investigated about this digital yuan, with which the Chinese government is trying to put down the hegemony of the US dollars. On April 27, China threw a blow to the hegemony of the U.S. coin because they were going to launch the pilot tests of their own digital coin. In Spanish, it's the one digital coin. This will be launched by the Bank of China, and they start in Shenzhen, Shushu, Chengdu, and the area of Shanghai. This is a city to the south of Beijing. Of course, the trials are just held in closed services. In the midst of China Daily said that the digital yuan has been formally adopted in the cities where the experiments are going through. For example, public servants will have their salaries paid ever since April. The development of this currency has been developed for many years. The article published in China Daily says that a digital currency that is emitted by the government is an option not to depend on dollars. And of course, it shields them from having any coercion on behalf of the United States. This currency will have more stability, and it will also help the stability of the traditional yuan. And they hope that there will be the currency, the U.S. currency, and the yuan can work hand in hand. It is expected that in the Winter Olympics of 2022, this will be used by everybody. This is China's bet. Let's see what some digital websites say. On May 7th, it says, dollar will keep on shining in the midst of the pandemic. The dollar will keep its hegemony because the investors prefer the security of the green dollar. According to the Reuters, it's probable that the pandemic of the COVID will dissuade the investors to take risks until there are signs of recovery. The world economy has come to an end, has come to a stop because of this pandemic. Many of the currencies has lost, but the dollar has won 3 points, and it's probable that this will continue for 3 more months. Although the panic phase has ended, the upcoming months we will have much more information, and of course these numbers will be poor. This is what was said by Jane Foley, who's the director of Rabobank. She said, "I think it's going to be an environment of low risk from the point of view of the investors." Most of the people who answered, 26 of 34, said the position of the dollar will continue for at least the next trimester. 7 thought that at least 3 months, and 1 said that it had already ended. Let me take advantage of this to suggest an article that says Bitcoin and the digital yuan. It has been published in Banca y Negocios. Let's read some of the parts. The idea of reducing the influence of the dollar in the international transaction is not new. Along with the European Union, other countries have tried to avoid the use of the U.S. money. Washington uses the dollar and the financial system as a weapon and sanctions against other countries. Nevertheless, in the long run, those sanctions could put at risk the supremacy of the U.S. currency that is currently the monetary reserve. The United States has the option to activate or deactivate any economy at will, a faculty that is in the hand of Donald Trump as a weapon of war. Additionally, the world has no sovereign country due to the currency. And here it says the use of currency as a weapon is a privilege exclusive to the owner of the currency that historically has always been has had the control first the Marina, then the most powerful Portugal, Spain, France, the UK, and finally United States. This was said by the CEO of Morgan Capital Management. However, China has realized that the next war will not be held in ships, but in chips. According to them, the Peking will win the digital currency escalade that will put an end to the hegemony of the dollar that is partly supported by gold. Additionally, it's important to bear in mind that the financial world is being drastically changed, and this has to do a lot with the technology called blockchain. And we also have to see that Bitcoin, where the banks will invest to make it monetary reserve, going in to be part of the monetary system. You cannot sanction a country when you can change their bolívares or their currency for bitcoins. At the same time, experts say that it will not be easy to confront the dominion of the dollar because it took like 100 years to leave back the British pound. Let's update information. Let's go to China with our correspondent Irán Ciperaza from Peking. Greetings, colleagues. For the first time ever since the end of World War II and the establishment of the financial system in Bretton Woods, the upcoming of new technology and new economic powers such as China have put at risk the supremacy of the US dollar during the last decades. It has been the dollar, the currency that has been used in most of the transactions, and it's the base of exchange of values and an international form. But of course, the United States has used this advantage to impose their political interest and ensure benefits over their adversaries. So it is not surprising that every time more the rest of the countries are trying to find an alternative to the US dollar so they can carry out their transactions internationally. In this sense, one of the most important news is that the trial phase is already ongoing in China. It will be called ERM, and this is how they also know the yuan. And in this first phase, they will carry out in some special sectors of China. We must say that although the electronic payments and the ones done through cell phones are widely extended here in China, this electronic yuan would be the first totally electronic currency that is supported by a strong economy such as China. And additionally, it is supported by a blockchain technology which would ensure the transactions internationally. Although this coin is still in an experimental phase, experts ensure that the objective is to avoid and leave behind the high dependency on the dollar in all of the international transactions. This is much more important now in the midst of this pandemic, and now that the United States is trying to impose sanctions on China. The appearance of this digital coin is additional to other initiatives that we have seen in the past years. We can see that we can mention that in the BRICS we have the petro that is an alternative to dollar, and of course in this context that the appearance of a different type of currency is positive, because for the first time we could break the supremacy of the US dollar. This is all we can say from here. Of course, we will continue updating any details. Thank you, Iramsi. Let's go to our first pause. not without inviting you to participate in the question of the day. We have it here on the screen. Sovereign governments are developing crypto coins as an alternative to let loose from the economic blockade that the United States imposes. What is the future of the world finance in the world? Participate with us. Send us your opinion. We'll be right back. Every time there is an increase of the force of a parallel system to counteract the pressure that the United States has by the use of the dollar. Let's review this. Traditionally, the preference coin in the world has been the US dollar. This is why the United States has used it as a weapon of pressure to obtain their objectives. Experts agree that the hegemony of the US dollars imposed on the world system is a tool with which the United States imposes their sanctions on other countries. These coercive measures could, in the long run, put at risk the currency of the US as the reserve. Countries as Iran, Venezuela, China, and Russia are putting alternatives to avoid the domination of the US and to substitute US dollar for another currency. This is how the Chinese government has developed international payment with the launching of their own service. SWIFT with the SWIFT services. Russia is doing the same thing in their transaction with other countries. They also started to exchange with China in their own currencies. Iran abandoned the dollar as currencies in dollars, and now they're using yuan and euros when buying and selling oil. Venezuela, ever since 2017, did not sell oil in dollars because of the coercive measures of the U.S., and now they're accepting other currencies like the yuan. And they launched the petro as a currency to use in the international market. Little by little, many other countries are taking this alternative. In 2018, the gold reserves increased from almost double the amount of gold that there were the reserves. So we have Turkey, China, and Russia, who are the great buyers of the gold to have as a support for these new currencies. Let's begin with the analysis. We have Victor Escudero, who's an expert in blockchain and bitcoins. Welcome to our critical move. To what point do you think that the dollar is at risk as an international exchange currency? Well, we are still far away from being in that situation because what we see is a system, the alternative is a system of payment. It's more like replacing the SWIFT system, and to see if it's going to be viable. This is an experimental phase, and of course China is very much interested in trying to impose it, and they are using it. They're using it to buy and to sell their products. And they can also use an electronic currency. Now, bringing China, why would they migrate through a digital platform and not compete with their physical yuan. Well, it's not basic. It's not a thing of the currency itself, because what if China wants is that they have a reference currency be used in the rest of the world. All of the world thinks that if you want to in any other currency, at the end of the day, that's being at disadvantage. An independent country, they would have to pay their oil in dollars, and then in yuanes, because the same thing that the United States has done by imposing the dollar and manipulate the world economy. This is the same thing that China could do eventually. They can impose their currency, and of course many countries would have an opposition. They would not want to use the yuan as a currency. The idea is having a crypto coin, but that is not, it is not linked to the financial system of a country. If we have that the yuan is linked to the financial system of China, then we have not advanced much. But if we have an emission line to which the central banks cannot interfere or devaluate it, then of course the other countries will agree on it, because they know that if using this currency, they cannot be manipulated by the country who is emitting it. Well, Victor, it's not a secret that from some years ago, the dollar is not being supported by gold. So tell us, what do you think that the U.S. currency has in front of the rest of the currency, that beyond just displacing other strong currencies like the British pound, but it also maintains on this speculation imposed on the international government, on the international market? Well, history says that this has been always habitual. There's always been a country that has dominated the rest and has dominated their language, their currency, their culture. Let's not forget that the Roman Empire also lasted for a long time. Of course, United States. We must not forget that these situations are temporary. They can't last forever. It's obvious that for commerce, we need a common language. Like, for example, here we always use English as a language, and we use the dollar as a currency. But of course, this can change. In fact, the coins that we've used throughout history, they have not lasted more than $200. So we could think that this will change. Dollars is used all around the world. It's because the United States can push the coercive measures by using their money. Let's see, for example, the Middle East that sells their oil, and they receive any type of currency in exchange. Well, the United States has intervened. And it's not necessarily that they have gold behind supporting it, but they have their military force, and they have other type of forces that support their dollar. But emerging countries see that this is a very important weapon, and that's why they're looking for alternatives. And I think that cryptocurrency is one of the best options. You say that the dollar could be imposed for many years to come. You said like $200, 200 years. Now, in the technological world, where the leaps are totally different from the rest of history, we see how new apps have been implemented and that many users say, hey, they never thought they were going to use it. But do you think that these 200 years might be shorter to bring down the dollar? Well, yes, probably. With this, in this framework, maybe the time will be less because things are moving much faster now. And the changes that have happened are happening much faster. So yes, I think it will last less than 200 years. You were speaking of something very interesting, which is this war attitude of the U.S. governments that have always sought to find war conflicts around the world. And we said this is one of the reasons on why the U.S. currency has a hegemony. Well, yeah, it's a way of supporting it. Because if they intervene in a country like Afghanistan, they're able to inundate the country of dollars. And of course, they use it for their soldiers. But those dollars that are free to print, and they are imposing the currency on on the country where they're used. And let's not forget that if to reconstruct these countries, the payments will have to be done in dollars. So any empire will defend their currency, and the best way to do it is to the diplomatic way or through war. United States has used both. So this is not an isolated case of history. Okay, to finalize, I would like to ask a question that I will speak with my next guest too, but I want to know your opinion on it. There are already cryptocurrency that are state-reserved, state-supported. Up until now, what is your evaluation of this? Well, these digital coins, crypto coins, are supported by oil and natural resources. But of course, the support is determined by the government, because the government is the one that says, okay, we're going to support this amount of money in the amount of reserves we have. So if this is like when you make a contract, if you have a buyer that is going to buy in petros, they say that for a certain amount of petros, they can attain a certain amount of barrels. So of course, this is a counteract, because these type of coins, like the petro, are supported in the amount of oil that the country has. And it lasts as long as the government stands by it. So if a new government says that it's not going to respect it, then it just comes down. So what we can say is that these currencies that are supported by governments are valid until the government wants to keep it valid. For example, in a European central bank, like in ours, that has to buy debt. So we have to know that who is supporting, who is backing up this currency. So why is the United States So United States is strong because of the currency they have spread all throughout the world. And if the United States issues a currency, an electronic currency, it would change nothing, because the United States is still a strong government. The problem is when Bitcoin, for example, it has no support, no monetary support at the back. So there is some difference of what the experts say among what we know as cryptocurrency, that is just like a Bitcoin, or a crypto coin that is supported by a government, like the Petro. That, by the way, in 2018, when it was launched to the world, there were many buyers, and the government said so. So, to begin with, there was a lot of confidence in the Petro. Of course, the difference is very important, because a person who buys Bitcoins at the end is a strength, because they know that no country can manipulate it, and the parties agree on exchanging on it, as opposed to a currency that can be controlled by a government. And let's not forget, of course, that we need the people trust the coins, the currency that have some type of government support. Thank you very much for your explanation, for your appreciation for critical moves. See you next time. That was Victor Escudero. Let's establish another pause in our critical moves, and we will analyze what we just heard with the next guest. This is an expert in the topic. But before we do that, we will go to a pause, and before that, you can participate in the question of the day. Sovereign governments are developing crypto coins as an alternative to liberate themselves from the U.S. domination through the dollar. What is the future of the finance in the world? Give us your criteria. We will be right back. The spread of the pandemic has impacted the world economy. There have been confinement measures and closing borders, paralyzation of the commerce, have lowered the expectation of the economy throughout the world. Let's see this context before we go to the second phase of our analysis. The coronavirus pandemic has infected more than 4 million people and has caused more than 290,000 people dead, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The application of confinement measures, closing borders, and reducing commerce have made that the economy lowered. In this context, the consequences of the interruption of supply chains and the increase of prices of basic supplies, the lessening of tourism, and has made that all of the activities become slower. According to estimates, the world economy could have one of the lowest growth of as countries, like 2.4 increase. And that was a far cry from 2.9 at the U.S. growth. There is a stimulus package in the U.S. to protect the economy. Regardless of this, the unemployment reached 20.5 places lost. The impact of coronavirus has also reached the stocks exchange, like Dow Jones, the Nikkei of Japan, have registered big falls from the beginning of the pandemic, which also affects the investments. The price of gold of oil has also had a big blow because the demand has reduced and the prices have fallen. Last April, the West Texas Intermediate of the United States fell to the lowest levels in history. It reached minus 37. In the case of China, the first country affected affected by this disease, and regardless of the commercial war that was unleashed by the United States, China has had a more precise focus on how to minimize the effects on their economy. I am here analyzing with Dr. Héctor Zulbarén. He's an expert on crypto coins and crypto actives, and we have him here today. Thank you very much. No, thank you. We are now analyzing cryptocurrency, and now we want to hear the state cryptocurrencies. These are not the normal ones like the bitcoins. We were listening to the criteria of a specialist that came right before you, and he said that in this case, bitcoins, since they are not supported by a state, of course it has some privileges. Well, the growth of the cryptocurrency is something new in the world. That if you see the evolution of how they began, and they all begin the same way, but the thing is that it's a very slow process. At one point, there was the dollar as a currency based on the gold that the United States had to support this money. Once the people began to trust in dollar, it was they had to circulate all of the money reserve that they had. So do you agree? Do you agree that it's like 200 years for the currency to come to an end? No, I don't think so, because the digital development has made things go faster. Because soon all of the transactions will be done digitally, and having physical money will not be as necessary. So you can use it however you want, like a debit card or a card given by the government, however you might need. But this is not a future thing. This is what we have now. But of course, what I'm saying is, yes, it does exist, but this is going to be exponential. The use is going to be exponential. But soon, you will be able to change everything you have online. So, the creation of these currencies will depend on the government. And just like in the past, the United States was able to make everybody trust in their currencies, this new currency, these currencies that are supported, these new currencies that will be supported by governments. Let's not forget what the use of crypto. We think that the future will be all in cryptocurrency. And so, why migrate to the cryptocurrency? What are the advantages for a government and for the citizens? Why will it be better to have commercial transactions through a cryptocurrency? Well, let me use a very easy example. If today we put away $100 within a book, and then we look for it the next year, what will we find? $100. But if we buy $100 in cryptocurrency, throughout the year there are two possibilities. One, then when we buy it next year, those $100 might become $140 because the increase of the value of crypto coins. Or of course, if the value goes down, you might have less, so $80 or $50. So if we're positive about it, we think that we will be earning a little bit more if we use cryptocurrency. as opposed to having nothing if we keep the paper bill. So, in this sense, a group of nations have come together, like China, that have a common denominator, that are economies that are blocked by the United States. Well, here there's something really political that is in the crypto economy. What's the policy? There is a confrontation of a real economic war. And this war, we, the Venezuelans, don't participate like we think. The world economic war, which is a war that brings as a consequence where China wants to be the leading country economically, and the United States doesn't want to lose the first place. I consider that the United States has an advantage, where China doesn't have such a big military structure, and the United States does, but much of their taxes has to go there. So this attempt of the United States to maintain the first place does affect the economy of the citizens, right? Yes, in fact, because they are spending on a military system that China doesn't have. China is making industries and industries and industries, and they keep on generating resources, so those companies will take over the world markets. So these crypto coins are used to make crypto payments, like, for example, the car industry, the textile industry, the technological industry, everything that is sold as an appliance, and everything that is sold all of these, to buy these things can be bought through cryptocurrency. If the first world power, which is the United States, begins to have, if the world starts exchanging things without using dollars, this will make the United States lose their first place. So, do you think this will happen? Yes. I am totally certain that cryptocurrency will replace the dollars. So this thesis or hypothesis that the dollar is at risk of an extinction can come true. I am a fervent believer that at some point of the world, of the economic world, this will happen. I don't know when this will happen because I'm not a fortune teller, but that will happen because you see the development and the number of transactions that are going on, and there are now more users of cryptocurrency. And we also see examples that at some point the government supports this activity, this economic activity in crypto economies. So if you start to join all of the countries of the world and they join in together in creating their own currency, this will debilitate the US dollar. But not only the dollar could be at risk as an international currency, all of the rest that we know can also be at risk of extinction, because at one point the cryptocurrency will impose itself. That's correct, because if we see when the economic European Union was created, if you see the euro, they have a strong a strong influence. However, not everybody uses it. If you go to a country with a €100 bill, people will not take it as easy as a $100 bill of the US currency. This has to do with commercial publicity and how the dollar has been managed. If the crypto economies have a boost of reliability among the citizens of the world, then people will use them more. And let's see, it's also a matter of education. We have to help people use and understand what the crypto coins are and how you exchange in this currency. Because maybe if we see a person of 55 and 60 years old and we speak of them of crypto economy, they will say, no, never mind. I'm used to having physical dollar bills. But tell us, is it so hard to understand the cryptocurrency? For example, here in Venezuela, when there are bonuses for the people that need it in Venezuela, and they have petros or half petros. And we have heard that people that say, no, we don't understand that. What do you think is the mystery that is behind the crypto economy? So, no, it's not a mystery. It's just a process of adaptation and knowledge. Let me give you an example so you can see. I recall, I was a boy when the first ATM machines came to Venezuela. The banks gave the people a card, and people would go in front of the machine, and people were afraid of them, because if I don't get my money complete, who am I gonna complain to? This is just a machine. And then after a while, everybody started using the ATM cards. Before, when you had a checkbook, you thought it was a person who had a good economic situation. But now, the checkbook is a dinosaur. Nobody uses checks. But people used to use them a lot. Then we had the credit cards. Let's not forget the four main ones. So whoever had the credit card with the major amount of capacity to get a loan, but whoever had that card is a sign of status. And people got used to having that system of payment. With the cryptocurrency, the same thing will happen. It's a process of getting used to it. Let's not forget that every boy that is born knows more of technology than the boy that already lives now. If you see the teenagers now can give us a class on how to use technology, because adults are not as keen. So these young people are using the trainer, which is the virtual exchange, stock exchange. And what they do is they deposit cryptocurrency in a wallet where somebody doesn't have a stable job can make small transactions, and they buy them and sell them within the crypto economy, and they earn like $3 a day. So somebody who doesn't have a job can do this. And the person will start learning on their own or through courses on how to buy and sell according to the fluctuation of the currencies. Isn't this putting at risk the banking system? Sure, because the banking system will be at risk. Why? Because everything that the bank does for you has a commission. If you send money from United States to Panama, they charge you $45. And you might think it's not that much. But if you see how many people do it a day, you'll see how much money these people earn. And at the month, you'll see how much the banks earn due to services of fraud, of balances, how much they charge for that. So during the month, have you heard that there was a person who used to take out 1 cent of every person's account, and how much they added up? And there is where the influence of the bank is. However, with the cryptocurrency, this doesn't happen, because you might be in China or Venezuela, and we make an agreement in crypto or in any economic pattern, and we don't pay anything as a commission. And we have another advantage, that we can use this for 24 hours, 365 days a week. So there is not even the problem of the time that you have with a person in another continent. So a Chinese person can make business with somebody in America, because we can make an agreement to see if I have the monies in crypto and you have your money in your wallet, and we can see how in seconds the payments are done. What is the main challenge of the governments who are beginning to develop cryptocurrencies? Maybe publicity? Well, yes. Well, the first challenge is educate citizens. This thing of creating a trust on behalf of citizens, and this trust, you can see the support, and you can know that when you receive this type of money in your digital wallet, you know that your money is safe. So the governments must trust. Governments must give trust to the people, because it's like when you turned in a piece of gold and they gave you a simple bill, and you said, no, I'll probably change this dollar bill for something that has some weight. So that happened until everybody saw that there was having bills was reliable. And the same thing here. So they have to start building reliability. They have to start educating and building trust on citizens, so everybody can work, everything can work well. Once people rely on this currency, this will grow really fast. Thank you very much for your reflections. Let's go to our conclusions. With the hegemony of the US dollar that has been a tool of the White House to impose sanctions, other governments that are of the non-aligned with the US are taking up cryptocurrency. And not to make the mistake of the Treasury, these are supported by gold. And second of all, the central banks are behind them, and they have an exchange value that share the karma of being behind the shadow of the White House. This is how the pandemic has pushed countries to fight for their sovereignty. This is all for today. Thank you.